artist living and working in Ghana. I work with the image form, and I use both still images and moving images. And for a short period, maybe 2 years, I have been working with the game Owari and Ludo and Draft. These are different games that I used to play as a child, and what I do is I estrange them by introducing or substituting the elements of play with other games, with other members. So for instance, the Owari piece that you would encounter at orderly disorderly, I substituted the nika nuts with medicine or with capsules. There is there's an influx of Chinese drugs as substitute to maybe orthodox drugs. So, and these are based on also herbal medicines, and the Chinese are big on herbal medicines, and even in acupuncture and everything they use needles and all that. So they are alternative medicines or alternative healing processes that takes place, and these particular ones that I use are also like herbal capsules that are bagged or packaged like antibiotics, but they are supposed to have, the particular ones I used are supposed to have cured kidney problems, heart problems, liver problems, like a lot of diseases packaged in one capsule. So I find that interesting in relation to what we also do here as traditional medicines. One traditional medicine can cure you of about 20 different ailments. So I find the interesting relationships between these capsules coming from China and then these capsules produced here in Ghana in the traditional medicine setup, and then also the Western antibiotics that are brought in, which for some time now we've already also known that these antibiotics, people or human beings have built resistance to these antibiotics, so they no longer necessarily function the same way as they should. They are no longer as potent as they were before. So these alternatives, or against, like, I'm not pitching the other against the main or anything, but I'm bringing all these types of medicines or objects or ideas into conversation. And so you have the orthodox medicine, the Chinese, which is another coming in, and then also you have the local traditional medicines coming into conversation on the pill board that moves around. The packaging looks like pellets for that could go into a gun or a rifle or anything, but so it's the aesthetic of the pellets that makes it look like they are bullets for a shotgun, for instance, or a pistol. So people have looked at it and thought, oh snap, they are bullets on the Owari board. And I find that interesting because of just the aesthetic of it, and I also chose the ambiguity of the aesthetic to be part of what is happening in there, because I knew from the beginning that people are going to respond to it in this way, or just look at them as drugs. And so I played around with all these subtle elements in the work. So the Snakes and Ladders is also another version of a board game that we play, and what you do is there are numbers 1 to 100, and you have ladders on the board, and then you have snakes, long ones and then short ones. So what you do is you roll a die and then you count. When you get to a point where if you roll a die, let's say 6, and then you count 6, and then you move your dice to wherever the number ends. If you get to a point where the snake's head is in the box, that means you have been bitten by the snake. And then you go all the way down to the tail end of the snake. So that is also interesting for me, that I use medicines which are like antidotes to snake bites. So in effect, what you are doing is you are being bitten, and then you have the antidote to the game, to the snake bite in the game. And that presents another way of also, experiencing, a board game differently to what you would encounter in the, on an everyday basis as leisure. And also had people wear surgical gloves in order to play. In a broader sense, what I do is to bring the game into an open space, invite passers-by, strangers, to either play a game with me or play a game with other passers-by. So it's a way of establishing dialogue. It's a way of bringing something intimate in public space to bring people into certain conversations which would not have happened on a normal day. So when it's set in public and then people are engaged in it, then it fosters a certain type of relationship. It could be very temporal, or it could also extend beyond the temporality of that time and space shared. And yes, I also choose the Owari board as the starting point because its form was very interesting to me. It's a game that probably predates our modern era. It supposedly was used for documenting financial transactions, or it's a game that was used as record keeping. In the Ghanaian context, over a period, it has been known to be used within the context of a social relation, and particularly the name Owari, which is an adaptation of Wari, which is marriage. It's a sort of it's a game that doesn't necessarily end in its endless cycle of play. So when people, like married couple, are engaged in playing the game, it's as if the relationship never breaks. So it fosters that dialogue until probably one decides, I'm tired, or you can always go the long haul. So at the end of the day, it is something that is very much rooted into the idea of relationship building, dialogue, exchanges that are necessary. And in this politically turmoil, state we find the world in, what we might even discuss as a very orderly, disorderly world, or a world in a lot of tensions. That is another way of bringing dialogue. It's another way of fostering relationships. It's another way of bringing in conversations. So it's my own adaptation of the game that makes it bring it into the context of art and not necessarily just leisure as you would find other people play in the open. But the substitution of the nika nuts, which is usually used in playing, with capsules and introducing surgical gloves, also is a pun on the idea of the modern medicine end games and an endless cycle of trying to not necessarily heal but numb certain ailments, and then you keep coming back to the drugs or the medicines provided by these corporations and all that. So it's a pun on that, but it's a very easy, subtle pun that I choose. And yes, people find that fascinating or find that as an interesting gesture that causes them to rethink their positions or rethink their ideas around drugs, games, relationships and all that. So it's almost like like an irony. It's like a bad joke or maybe a good one perhaps because people engage with it and it's easy to also get the joke out of it. So that's how I play around with it. In terms of video and how the form presents itself, is not only contemplative. The board is presented within a box case, and because it's a pre-recorded video shown face up, and then you have two stools next to it, as if it presents itself as if you can actually play the game, but you cannot. So people are almost tricked into touching it, trying to move the capsules, and realize that no, it's not a touch screen, you cannot move it. So it's also the form of the video I have, object that I have presented also removes it from mere contemplation into a certain spontaneous action, being drawn out of spectators. So, but that action ceases because at a point you realize that it's also not allowing you to do that. It's not allowing you to participate in the game. So these push and pull, these ideas around fostering the dialogue, fostering relationships, fostering conversations around something as simple as a game board is interesting. It's something that excites me, and I have done that in 3 other board games. And as I had mentioned, the Ludo, which is Snakes and Ladders version, the Ludo itself, and then checkers or draft as people would call it here. I wouldn't say necessarily in Africa because it doesn't necessarily come from I don't know its I wouldn't say I don't know its origin, because yes, I don't know the exact origin of the game, but it is a game board that is common across the landscape in certain cities within Africa. In Accra, people play it a lot, and although I haven't traveled around Africa much, I've been to Nigeria. There's a version I've encountered, yes, and so there are, and when you Google it, you seem to have different versions of it across the landscape. So it is possible that these are games that all people play. The thing about games is also that the boards can be similar, but the rules make the game. So you can have a similar board, but when the rules change, there's a change in play. So the difference might be how the game is played in Ghana, as opposed to or differently from how it is played in, let's say, Nigeria. So for instance, the Mancala, board games, there are so many different types, and in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Mali. There are so many iterations of the Mancala games that people play, and these are also dependent on the rules. So you can have actually the 6 board game. There are 24 board games. There are I think 48 also board game, which is in the same family of the Mancalas. So in different cities across the world, they are playing the same game, but the rules change. Right, so this is where I'm interested in. And even in Ghana, the same board, you have three different iterations: the Abapa, Anenam, Owari. These are 3 different iterations of the same board game, depending on the rules you are playing with. I don't know exactly who developed those rules, but they are rules that come with the game. So you grow up learning about the game, learning to play the game, and these are the rules. And just as anything else, without the rules, you're almost like anyone can move, right? There's no without the rules, then there's no way to even establish the game of play. So you don't even begin to play without the rules. Exactly. So these are some of the things that maybe where it came from, where the rules came from, the adaptations of it, and all that becomes something that you cannot necessarily point to a specific individual, a specific community, or because it's been in existence for so many, centuries and all that. Yes.